Hey there YouTube, this is Derek or Lycan 101, and this video is going to be a continuation of the Kygreum Campaign Setting and the Pantheon video that I put out a couple of weeks ago. So welcome to the Pantheon Part 2. Let's get right into it. Last time we talked about the Pantheon, we talked solely about the Greater Pantheon, and I introduced you to all of the deities that made up that group. And I also discussed a little bit about what makes all of the deities and the way the deities work special in my campaign. So this video is going to focus on the Lower Pantheon and a few of the deities in there. So first we have Aldnoch, she of the 6 venoms. She is the goddess of assassins. She's lawful evil, and she is known as the Scorpion God, and she is the deity that not only is the goddess of assassins, but she is also the assassin of gods herself. She goes across the planes, and in times of need or when other deities feel their rule or their dominion is being threatened by some other cosmological force, Aldnoch is called upon to take out these entities. She has a small following on the plane, which is why she's put on the Lower Pantheon, and it's because the assassins keep a secret order, and therefore they keep their religion secret. Next we have Ariadne, Lady Luck, the goddess of luck. She is the god that is depicted as an elven woman with golden hair. She's a flighty, frivolous, easily distracted goddess. She floats around and finds people that she favors on one day and then winds up hating them the next. And she goes around and she's the light-hearted, carefree goddess of the Lower Pantheon. And she just kind of does whatever she feels like in the moment. One day you can be in the midst of her favor, and the next you can find yourself totally lost in the world and all your luck is gone. And it's because she's the goddess of luck that most of her followers are gamblers and those that are just trying to go through their life on luck instead of skill. So she makes for an interesting goddess, and those of her following are usually lighthearted and quickly to anger and change their emotions. But her following is spread all across Kygreum. It's because of this. The reason it spread so far is because she goes wherever she wants, and she goes around the plane finding people that she thinks are, in need of luck. Then we come to her twin brother, Baymond. He's known as the Eternal Pilgrim and is the god of travel. He's a loving brother, and because of that, he's the older brother, and he goes all around following his sister, trying to make sure she stays out of trouble, and helping those who fall out of her favor. He helps them and says, hey, look, it's going to be okay, and kind of shows them this alternate light that says, just because you're out of luck today doesn't mean the luck won't come back tomorrow. And he's usually worshipped by travelers and those that are always on the road looking for their own spot in life and in the universe. He's a peaceful god. He kind of shows everyone the way. So he's worshipped mostly. His biggest following is surprisingly comes from the Pathfinders society, because they're always traveling, always looking for new ways to get around and new things that happen in life. So it's not surprising when someone worships Baymond and is in the Pathfinder society. Likewise, it's also common to find someone who worships both Baymond and Ariadne, because they are brother and sister. Then we come to Damiel, the Shape Changer, god of trickery and deceit. He is the only son of a unlikely union between Zerul and Istra, the two of the deities I talked about last time, Istra being the goddess of vampires and monsters, and Zerul being the god of envy and pain. Over millennia, Damiel has formed his own entity from these backgrounds, and he's inlaid them with his own thoughts. And he's known as the Shape Changer because he can change his shape into whatever he wants, into whatever can get him what he wants. He's a master of trickery, deceit. He loves playing on tricks on both the gods and the mortals, whether it's as simple as, fouling somebody up in their day-to-day life, or making sure that an entire village disappears overnight and is never found again. He is the patron of illusionists, tricksters, and liars, and his worship is the smallest of any deity, because in most of the large cities in my setting, his faith is outlawed because of his focus on lies and illusions. However, that doesn't stop people from worshiping him on a smaller scale, privately in their own homes, or in areas where you would least expect it. They change their shape as often as their master does, the followers do, that is, and they could one day have a long flowing beard and golden hair, and then the next day it could be, clean shaven and bald, or clean shaven with raven hair. But their changes could also be more subtle. It could be as simple as writing with your left hand one day and then writing with the right, or wielding two swords instead of one, or switching hands that you're wielding a sword with. In addition, the churches, or temples I guess you could say, that are brought up for Damiel are usually hidden where no one can really find them. A vacant building could suddenly become the appearance of a butcher shop, and then it is in turn just a 1 week long fraud to allow the members of the church to come and worship. Then that brings us to Freya, the Radiant Dawn, the goddess of sun and fire. She is the daughter of Castiel and Seanine, the creator god and the goddess of nature. She is the golden light that shines down upon the entire world. She is the sun and the fire, and her light provides warmth and energy for all that her parents have created. She is the goddess that is there with her welcoming, warming light to bring everyone back from darkness. She believes that anybody can be saved, but that doesn't mean that she necessarily will save you. It has to be something you see in yourself that brings you to the light. She's worshipped most often by people that have turned their life around and come back to the light from darkness. What's the word I'm looking for? Can't think of it. People who've gone through rehab and stuff, about drinkers, alcoholics, and those kinds of people that have turned their life around. Prisoners who've seen the light and now do good, and people of that nature. She is a very loving goddess, and people love her and her worship, and she has a very wide worship across Kygreum. Then we have Gilan, the chronicler. He's god of history and time. He was tasked from the beginning of time by Castiel to record every event that occurs upon the material plane. He's depicted in 3 ways, sometimes simultaneously, as a young child, a old man, and then an adult who is in the prime of life, muscular build. And though he's the master of time, and he can slide back and forth through time to look at events again that have happened thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of years in the past, or into the future, he is relegated to the sidelines. He can't directly change anything. He can't go in and just pluck a person from time and say this person never existed. That would be the dominion of Selene, the true goddess of fate, who is part of the greater pantheon and was talked about in the previous video. But just because he can't directly involve himself doesn't mean he doesn't send whispers or small signs that are very confusing to certain people throughout time to kind of push them in the right way that will lead to future events or past events, depending on where he is in the time stream. Worshippers of Gilan are among the brightest and often the most cryptic people you will ever meet. He is the most confusing god there is, and so it takes the brightest mind to try to figure out what's really going on in his head. And it is said that the most devout of his worship are the ones that, upon death, will ascend into the heavens and help him chronicle the rest of time. Then we come to the last deity in the Lower Pantheon, named Mashakal. She is the armored lady and supreme goddess of war. Now, if you remember, Torum is also a god of war. However, Torum is the god of a just and righteous war. And that's how you're saying there's no such thing as a just and righteous war. However, I would, we're not going to get into the argument of all of that, but he's the one that puts it out for, oppression of slavery, trying to get rid of slavery and things that are of that darker nature. Whereas Mashakal is just, I want to fight. Let's fight all the time. And it's all about war, all about destruction, about death. And her clerics say that at the beginning of the race wars, in one of the first battles, that after the dust settled and all the armies had left and finished for the day, that all that remained on the battlefield after they cleaned up all the bodies was a single full set of armor laying on the field of battle. And then that single suit of armor suddenly began to animate itself and came to life as Mashakal. She's depicted as wearing iron armor with a full helm, with a resplendent plume of crimson and a crimson cape, and she goes into battle and fights and just loves the joy, always has a smile on her face as she slashes through countless enemies. And it's said that warriors in battle will sometimes feel her presence or look across the battlefield and swear they see her fighting amongst the other soldiers. So her worship is very barbaric in that sense, that it's all about war, about fighting, about I want to kill, and let's have followers who are the robust fighters and always want to be in action and combat. And it's said that her most devout and her most sacred, you could say, of followers are sometimes followed as they walk just by a trail of blood that just kind of pours, not necessarily from them, but seems to follow or emanate from them. And that's just a symbol of how epic or destructive and dark their powers are. And she's really just all about war, and she doesn't care who it involves or what side or what deity she fights. It's just all about war and action and conflict and destruction. So that was the Lower Pantheon. So we've talked about the Greater Pantheon, the Lower Pantheon. We're going to talk in the next video about the Lords of Balance, and we'll quickly cover the Archdevils and the Host, which are angelic beings that are basically demigods. And that will wrap up all of the deities. I think we'll also cover some philosophies, just a couple of them, of philosophies that are an alternative way of worship in my setting. And then that will be the third video for the Pantheon. So then maybe after that, depending on how long that video is, we will also talk about how the deities relate and are involved in the world at large, and do they stand back, or are they actively involved in everyone's life, and that sort of thing. So this looks like it'll be about a 4-part video of the Pantheon. So this is going to be the most lengthy part of anything I've done for the one subject of my campaign setting so far. So I hope everyone's enjoying these videos and giving you guys a taste of what's in the Kygreum campaign setting and what else is to come. So thanks for watching.